Golden State Warriors unfortunately faced reality last night after they lost to the New York Knicks 119-112. They now dropped to 35-32 on the season with about 14 regular season games left. But this loss doesn't mean that much in retrospect, but it's kind of important just for the sense that they dropped down from tied for 9th in the Western Conference to back to 10th place, and now the Rockets are creeping up to possibly able to take their 10th place spot, so it's really making the playoffs look very far away for the Golden State Warriors right now. However, it's not completely out of the picture. So if the Warriors do decide to get their shit together and make the NBA playoffs this year, Warriors Today by Chat Sports will be going live for all the watch parties, bring you guys play-by-play highlights, and to just have a good time. So if you guys want the Warriors Today channel to go live for the playoffs, all you guys have to do is subscribe today. I want to talk about the main factor that I saw here against the New York Knicks was the lack of offense. We know what Steph Curry does night in and night out. 27 points is on average for Steph Curry, but 25 points from the other 4 starters is just flat out unacceptable. 16 points from Kuminga, 7 from Wiggins, 2 from Green, and 0 from Podziemski. How in the world are you going to take down Jalen Brunson and the East Coast contenders New York Knicks without scoring the basketball? And I want to talk about Jonathan Kuminga here specifically. 16 points is fine for Jonathan Kuminga, really. He's been averaging 15 per game throughout the entire season, making 7 of 13 field goals, and he went 0 for 2 from three-point line. Once again, pretty common for Jonathan Kuminga, really only makes 2 threes, and that's at most in a game. But 1 rebound in 26 minutes is horrendous. For a rookie, for a vet, for anybody that is playing in the NBA, 1 rebound will not push it, especially for a starting power forward in the Golden State Warriors lineup. And when I took a look at the last 5 games that the Warriors have played, considering the fact that they've lost 4 out of 5 games so far in March, 1 rebound against the Knicks, that was a loss. 2 rebounds against the Lakers, that was a win. 4 rebounds against the Mavericks, another loss. 5 rebounds against the Spurs with a win, and 3 with a loss against the Spurs without Curry. This is not acceptable to have Jonathan Kuminga have this type of flaw so early in his career. However, the good part is that he is so young and he's being mentored by one of the Warriors' best rebounders on the team right now, Draymond Green, that he can clean this up pretty quickly with 14 games left in the regular season. But his rebounds right now are plaguing Jonathan Kuminga's greatness and what he can do for the Golden State Warriors. I truly believe he can be a game changer at any given moment, not just a playmaker for the Warriors. That's what Curry has been time and time again for the offense, but I'm really looking at the defensive woes for the Golden State Warriors and how Jonathan Kuminga can change that immediately. I'm going to talk about the defensive woes a little bit later in this show, but first and foremost, I just want to talk about what Steve Kerr had to say about the loss to the New York Knicks. He said, look, we just weren't good. It's that simple. Producer Patrick Seaman was actually producing Knicks Now last night as they were live for the Knicks versus Warriors game. And we were talking a little bit before this, just saying, look, they just flat out looked old. And that's tough because the Warriors have dominated the last decade in the NBA. But when you come down to it, there are very few players in their prime playing for the Golden State Warriors. You can vouch for Brandon Podziemski, Trey Jackson Davis, and Jonathan Kuminga. But in terms of the veterans, they are all past their prime, except for Steph Curry, as he may not be in his prime, but he's still doing MVP numbers every single night. And here's where I get a little bit worried about the Golden State Warriors, is that they have had some pretty comfortable games in the 10th place spot with the Rockets being so bad this year, but now they've lost 4 of their last 5 games in March, and the Rockets are winning. And they face the worst teams in the Eastern Conference coming up. They play the Bulls, the Wizards, and the Hornets, which means they're 3 games behind the Warriors right now. So if the Warriors do not clean up their act moving forward in these next 14 games, they could find themselves in the 11th place seed and miss the playoffs entirely. So with that question being said, seeing that Jonathan Kuminga has been struggling with rebounds, seeing the Warriors are just fighting father time, what do you think the Warriors' biggest weakness is that's keeping them out of the playoffs right now? However, they're still in 10th place. They can still make the play-ins. Steve Kerr thinks they can make a deep run, but at this point, I think their defense is their biggest weakness, and I'm going to break it down a little bit here in the second half of this video. But first, I do want to tell you guys about Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app in America right now. I'm playing it, Seeps is playing it, and here's why you guys should too. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks, and they've got specials for new and returning users alike for March Madness, when you head on over to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Football season may be over, but the action on the hardwood is heating up. Whether it's March Madness or the fight for the NBA playoff seeding, which is exactly what the Warriors are doing right now, there's no shortage of high-stakes basketball moments this time of year. This is my favorite time of year for hoops. Get in on the excitement with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. March Madness kicks off tonight with the first 4 games, and you can now pick more or less, while Prize Picks is also giving you pretty much a free pick here for Caitlin Clark's matchup on Saturday. Just select more than half a point for Clark, which is a no-brainer, and pair it with another winner for 3 times your money. Look, Prize Picks is extremely simple. Take it from me. I used to never put money down on games because it was extremely confusing to me. You guys see me do mental math on the air. I'm terrible at it. So all you got to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 players' stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get started now if you haven't already at prizepicks.com/CLNS and a first-time deposit match of up to $100. Prizepicks.com/CLNS. Pick more, pick less. It is literally that easy. After the game, former MVP Steph Curry just looked flat out tired. He looked mad and angry and pissed off at the fact the Warriors are now in this position yet again. They were finding their stride after the All-Star break, but after last night's loss, where a lot of their bad habits seem to come back up, I don't blame Curry for just being pissed off at where the Warriors sit right now with 15 games left to go. Curry said after the game, honestly, who cares what seed you are? If you play like we did tonight and they lost to the Knicks 119-112, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You're not getting very far. This comes just a few days after Steve Kerr said he has extreme hopes for the Warriors, and he believes that they can make a deep playoff run. But like I said, they got a nice kick in the face with reality last night when they took on a top 5 team in the Eastern Conference. Curry said Golden State Warriors were trying to make their way into 6th place. They were using that as motivation to win these last couple of ball games in the regular season, but now they just said, scratch that. We're just trying to win a ball game and be consistent and knock out our flaws. Because if you do make it into the play-in, you make it into round 1 or round 2, you cannot have this margin of error. You have to nip all of this in the bud right now and start being consistent, especially if you were to have home court advantage, which the Warriors have been pretty good so far this season in the Chase Center until the second half of the season. The Warriors are now 17-18 at home, slipping under 500. You should never slip under 500 when you have the home court advantage, unless you're struggling like the Golden State Warriors are right now, which I think is very fair to say, as they're flirting with now 10th and 11th place in the Western Conference. And I truly do think it starts with the defense. They always say in all the basketball movies, offense wins games, offense sells tickets, but defense wins games. The Doves are still lacking defense, and it's pretty evident, especially when you're going up against cold shooters like Jalen Brunson, who can knock it down from anywhere on the court. It was pretty clear how bad the Warriors' defense was last night, despite their offense not producing what it normally does. And like I said, the Golden State Warriors have lost 4 of their 5 games in March, and they've dropped to the 19th defensive rating in the league. They have struggled with their defensive rating the entire season, but the fact that it's not going up, but rather down, is where my concerns lie. And I took it a little bit farther and looked into some deeper stats here. They're giving opponents fast break points 15.1 points per game. This is a huge reason why they lost to the Mavericks the other night without even fourth quarter Luka. They gave up 22 points in fast breaks, whereas the Warriors only scored 8 in their fast breaks. That transition defense is horrendous right now. Plus, opponents are scoring 50.1 points per game in the paint every single night. And I know this does come because of their lack of a true big. Draymond Green can only go so far up against the jokers of the world. But still, size does matter, especially if you do have somebody like Jonathan Kuminga trying to help down there. He can't rebound, and his size isn't as big as somebody like the Joker. And naturally, their defensive rating is currently 17th in the NBA at 115.5. They're 19th since coming back from the NBA All-Star break. Look, they're playing better in the second half. That's the good part. I'm not going to let one game depict what they could actually do in the playoffs, because the Warriors have shown many bright spots, taking down the Lakers, taking down the the 76ers, taking down the Bucks. So I do know they can have spurts of production on offense and on defense, but it's the consistency that is really driving me up a wall, because if they keep playing like this and if they crumble, the starting five crumbles, let alone, I find it very hard to make it past round one. So I do think if the Warriors do stay in 10th place, they will make it past the play-in, because the Warriors know how to play in the playoffs. However, depending on who they play in round one, I very rarely see the Warriors making it any farther than that. But that's just me. I might be a little bit biased here, might be a little bit of a negative Nelly, but nonetheless, here's why we have Warriors today. I give you my opinion. I give you the stats, and then you go on ahead and talk down below. Just go on ahead and answer this question for me. How far do you think the Warriors can go in the NBA playoffs? Do you see them playing for a play-in? Do you see them missing it entirely? Or do you see them going all the way to the NBA Finals? Just go on ahead and drop that comment down below. And while you guys are at it, like I said, if they do make the playoffs, I want to go live every single game here on Warriors Stay by Chat Sports. That starts with you guys. All you have to do is hit that sub button for me.